So most of us do not know what we are actually. That's why we don't know how we operate and don't know how to control this vessel that we're in. Believing in the unseen is what manifests what we cannot see and what you cannot touch. So what is the law of vibration? This essentially states that everything moves and nothing stops moving. Now think about that real quick. What about yourself? You're moving all the time, right? You're vibrating. This mouse right here, it is vibrating at high speed. This can I have, it is vibrating, sitting here vibrating at a high speed. And we know this because if you took a picture of it with using a special camera, you can see the energy radiating off of it because it is mass. So mass is energy and it's radiating off of it. So everything has a vibration to it, which means that we should pay attention to that, right? So you're only limited only by your weakness of your attention and poverty of imagination. Now, what does this actually mean? So the weakness of attention. If you cannot focus on something for long enough, you cannot actually have it in the future. Think about anything that you achieved in life. Did it take a high level focus or did you kind of just not think about it very often? So the things that we focus on the most, we move towards. So the law of attraction, it's not that we're attracting something to us, it's what we focus on the most we move towards. So it should really be called the law of forward motion based off of focus, if you really think about what's happening. If we think about golf all the time, we'll probably end up swinging the golf club more than a baseball bat, if that makes sense. So what we focus on, we move towards. So it's the weakness of our attention of not focusing on what we want. If you do not think about what you want, you cannot actually physically have it. If you do not think constantly about the car that you want, it's never going to show up in your driveway. If you do not constantly think about the house that you want, you cannot possibly have it because your brain cannot teach you, or your brain cannot move to the frequency to attract it to you, which we're going to go into. So first thing is we need to have the focus of the attention on what we want and the poverty of the imagination to create it. If you cannot see it in the mind, you cannot have it in the real world. How can you have a great painting on a piece of paper if you couldn't imagine it in your mind first to see what you're about to paint on a piece of paper? How do you have the business that you want if you don't see it first in the mind first, if that makes sense? Now that we have it, the focus, meaning we're always thinking about it and we're creating it through imagination, then what do we have to do? We have to have the will to do it, the decision just to do it. So think about like back when we were going to the moon, right? What did they say? What did he say? The will to do it. What will it take to get to the moon? The will to do it, meaning the decision to do it. Yeah, we can do it. We can all do it. The reason why you don't have a team that you want is not because you can't do it, it's because you're not doing it. You can 100% do it. You're just choosing not to. You're choosing something else. Parties, drugs, girls, weekend date, or whatever you're doing, right? It's not that you can't have what you want. You're choosing to not. It's the will to choose to have it. It's the decision, right? So once we make a decision to do it and never stop moving that energy towards it, you will have it. You're just making the wrong decision to move the energy to the wrong things in life that don't move you to the goals or the future life that you want to have. So the law of vibration, or the law of attraction, starts with the law of vibration. Where does the law of vibration start? It starts in our mind. So everything in life comes through this 3-step process, intellectually to emotionally to physically. We have to have it intellectually understood in the mind as a concept that we can rationalize, understand, and identify. Then we need to emotionally involve ourselves in that thought. And then we can physically have it in the real world. So think about like a Ferrari, like a yellow Ferrari. Let's go through this process. If you do not know what a yellow Ferrari looks like, meaning you can't visualize it in your mind, you don't intellectually have it in the mind. So if you're living in the jungle, if I went to the jungle somehow and I went to a tribe of, living in the middle of the jungle. Hey, do you know what a Ferrari or Lamborghini is? No, they don't. They don't have an intellectual understanding of it. That's why they don't have one in their driveway. It's impossible to have something you don't intellectually understand. So the first thing is we need to intellectually have it in the mind first. I need to know what a Ferrari is to actually be able to want it, to be able to manifest it, right? So I need to be thinking about it. Now that we know what it is and we have a concept of it, I want to be successful in real estate. I need to know what real estate is. I need a real estate license. Okay, so if I want a big team at EXP, I need to know the process, intellectually understand. I have to get a real estate license to be able to build a team to accept commission, if that makes sense. Intellectual understanding. Now the emotional involvement in it. Do you think you'd be more emotionally involved in trying to manifest a Pinto or a 1992 Honda Accord or a yellow Ferrari? Which one do you want the most? So what we tie our emotions into, which come from our thoughts that we focus on, the stronger the emotional involvement, meaning you hear the saying from Eric Thomas, you better want it better than you want to breathe. That's the emotional attachment saying, I want it this bad that I'm willing to push through the bullshit on the way to get it, if that makes sense. So we emotionally attach ourselves to the things that we want, and we move to the things that are the most emotionally charged in our life. The things that bring the most powerful emotions to us, we move towards those, if that makes sense. Okay? Now that we think about it and understand it, and we're emotionally tied into it, we follow it up with energy, and that's when we physically have it in the world. But now think about the pilgrims real quick here. What does RAS stand for? This is our reticular activating system. It's a filtering mechanism at the bottom of our brainstem. It's basically once something comes into our attention, we now recognize it because we're shared energy to it at one point, and now we can feel that or see that through the vibrational frequency that we're on. You see this analogy talking about a car that you drive. If you want a certain car, and then you go buy it, you never saw people have it before, now you see it everywhere, right? If that makes sense. The first time you guys had never heard about EXP, and then someone brings that into your focus, the intellectual understanding of it, now you kind of know what it is, now it's triggered the RAS system, now you're emotionally involved into it, now it pops up everywhere, EXP, EXP, EXP. It was always all around you, it's just now in front of you. So when the pilgrims came to the beaches here, The Native Americans did not even see the ships off the shore. They did not even see them. It was not an intellectual understanding in the mind, so therefore the mind's RAS system did not allow the mind to actually see the ships, if that makes sense. This is why when you drive down the highway, you see a billboard, but you don't actually see it. It is there, you rationalize it, you saw it, but you didn't process it through to where you actually focused on, if that makes sense. Why is this important? Because if you're not thinking clearly and you're not intellectually understanding what you want, you will not see the path or the road to success, which is the boat sitting off the shore. Even though it's a giant boat that you could easily see, you cannot see it because you're blinding yourself to it because you're not thinking about the right thoughts and vibrating on the right frequency, which we're going to go into. Okay. So the vibration pattern starts in our mind. Our mind activates the brain cells. When your brain cells are activated, you're impacting the universal field. So what is this? What actually are we? How does the battery in our body work? Nothing in this world works without an energy source. Your cell phone, your computer, everything has to be charged in. So what charges us is our universal field, okay? Think about Google. It's the easiest way to understand it. Where is the universal field of Google? Nobody knows. It's floating around the world, but it's infinite for the most part, right? What do we do to pull information from the universal field? We type in a keyword into keyword research into the Google search toolbar, right? So if I want to find information on cats or dogs, what do? I type it into the search bar and I hit send. I triggered a thought that went out there into the universal field and pulled back on the same frequency that Google operates through, which is the same way our brains work. And there it is. Now I can see it. Pictures, images, articles, and videos on what I just thought about, right? For the most part. So how do we work ourselves? Thought waves are cosmic waves there in the middle that transcend time and space. So think about like a lightning strike. Think about lightning here. This energy force is coming down from the sky as lightning. And think about a tree that's sitting there as a mass. It's just sitting there. It's energy itself is vibrating, but it's in a different form. Now you have a lightning bolt come down. It hits the tree. There's a transference of energy into that tree, and then it's stored into that tree for a second until it releases back out into the world as that tree turns into a fireball and catches on fire and burns down. What that means is there's energy coming from one source, transferring into another, and being transformed into a form that was not there at once. This is how we manifest things. We ourselves are like sitting in a tree, right? The universal field is the lightning. It's a massive energy. It's infinite. It's God's power. It comes to us and through us, and we've spread it back out to the world. So here comes the lightning strike into us, which is what we choose as far as energy to allow to come into us, which is frequencies, right? Which we'll dig into. And then the manifestation process is what we create with it, the fire that comes out of us, right? So what we need to do is guard the energy that comes in mind so we can now manifest it. So most of us do not know what we are actually. That's why we don't know how we operate and don't know how to control this vessel that we're in. Believing in the unseen is what manifests what we cannot see and what you cannot touch. If you do not believe that you can have something that has not yet come, you will actually never have it. It's believing that you can have something that most people doubt that they will never have that pushes you to put the energy in to push past the risk-taking nature of what if the price is too high to pay? What if I put too much money into this? It doesn't work out. What if I put too much time into this? It doesn't work out, right? That's why most people sit down, it doesn't work out. It's fear, and they're telling themselves the wrong thoughts. So why is this important? What this means is what we think about, we are vibrating on that frequency, and we can attract what we think and we feel.